drawing the ground so that it looks realistic is often a weak spot in drawing. Let me explain why I think this most commonly happens and show you how to overcome it. The answer lies in understanding perspective. And because we think perspective applies to buildings rather than the ground, we don't fully understand the crucial thing for drawing the ground. We know that when we have a side of a building that slopes away from us, it looks something like this. We also know that to find the halfway point along this sloping wall, we draw the diagonals, and that shows us that because of visual compression, of narrowing of an object as it moves away from us, that this half is smaller than this half. Although these are the same distance apart in life, from this viewpoint, they seem to get narrower. This makes perfect sense when we think of a building and we put windows along here, and that this works whether we have a relatively short wall, such as this, or whether we have a very long, far-stretching wall, such as this. What we need to realize is that this doesn't represent merely walls that stand up. It also represents the ground lying down. So this now is no longer a wall, but this is the ground. This is, say, a footpath on the ground, and it's got divisions for sections of concrete, let's say, that are all equal distances apart. We can see that what happens is these distances rapidly get closer together. And if our footpath is very long, and if we're looking at it from quite low down, this effect becomes much more exaggerated. This and this is what we have happen with the ground. And if we don't realize that, then we can't draw the detail on the ground in a realistic way, because it's not just the width of pathway blocks of concrete that becomes compressed. But if this is the ground, it's everything that's on the ground, including grass and sticks and rocks. As they move further away, if they're equally spaced, they get closer together. And depending on the angle and the distance we can see, will determine how much they compress. If we look back at our ground, we can almost see this as a pathway moving back. Probably if there were perspective lines, they would look somewhat like this, go right off the page before they reach us here. But what this means, now here we have half of the distance representing 2/3, but this is more like this one. So the halfway point is probably way up here somewhere, and the quarter point could well be here somewhere. So the sort of detail we draw in this section of the ground, we have very much less space to draw it in. And once we go back a certain distance, in all likelihood, we can't actually produce marks that are fine enough to represent anything that relates to the marks we're using down here. And so this is more how we should draw something such as grass when we allow for this happening. What we see down the front in some detail very rapidly goes from being perhaps relatively large marks to very small marks to dots to really the less the better, and that this gives the effect of distance. Instead of doing what is so often seen that looks more like this than this, where this is more like a wallpaper effect that doesn't give any sense of the distance that we see here or here, because we've considered what detail is on the ground to draw, and we've remembered that foreshortening applies to surfaces lying flat, not just surfaces standing upright. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. Hope this has been helpful and that you get the chance to put it into practice soon. But whatever you draw, however you draw it, have fun. See you next time. Bye.